The Albuquerque mansion radiated opulence that night. Crystal chandeliers cast soft, glowing lights over the spotless halls as laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses. Isabella moved among the guests like the perfect bride, wearing a smile that masked a deep sense of unease. Her wedding to Arthur, the man who seemed plucked from a fairy tale, was just a day away. Yet, something hung in the air, making each step feel heavier. As the guests toasted the couple's happiness, Isabella noticed things others didn't, lingering glances between Arthur and Marina, her childhood best friend, and subtle, secretive smiles. She tried to brush it off as pre-wedding nerves. Still, the uneasiness grew, like a shadow that wouldn't fade. Later that evening, Isabella found a golden envelope hidden among the floral arrangements. No sender, no clues. Just a message written with chilling precision: not everything is as it seems. Open your eyes. The paper felt as heavy as a stone in her hands. The warning echoed in her mind as she watched Arthur, who seemed unusually distant, avoiding her gaze. The mansion, once brimming with life, now felt stifling. Isabella stepped into the garden, seeking some relief. The full moon cast a pale glow over the perfectly manicured bushes, but the feeling of being watched lingered. Her thoughts spiraled into memories, recent moments that felt out of place. An unsaid word, an unfinished gesture. What once felt like perfect harmony now seemed like an ill-rehearsed performance. When she returned to the party, Arthur and Marina were nowhere to be found. Climbing the stairs in search of answers, Isabella reached the silent hallway on the second floor. The air was cold and oppressive, with closed doors guarding secrets she felt compelled to uncover. The dim light from the flickering lamps seemed reluctant to follow her. Arthur's office was out of order. Papers, perfectly organized just the day before, were now scattered. Among them, a partially torn contract caught her attention. The signatures were familiar, but the dates didn't match. It was a clue, though she didn't know what it meant. All she knew was that the weight in her chest kept growing, the sense of something terrible coming, unstoppable and merciless. The dawn of the wedding day brought an eerie stillness to the Albuquerque mansion. The house, which should have been buzzing with preparations, seemed engulfed in a disquieting silence. Isabella's absence was first brushed off as trivial, she was probably getting ready or taking a moment to herself. But as the hours passed, the tranquility turned to worry. The bride's room was a mystery. The bed was untouched, her wedding dress hung perfectly on its hanger, and her shoes were neatly placed by the bed. A nearby desk held signs of recent use, a half-finished cup of tea, now cold, and a ring Isabella rarely removed, left beside a blank sheet of paper. Small details, each more disturbing than the last. Searches around the property began with growing urgency. Staff combed through the gardens, the kitchen, and the halls, while guests started to gather, increasingly curious about the delayed ceremony. Arthur appeared restless but tried to mask his tension. Marina, on the other hand, seemed unusually calm, moving through the house as if nothing was amiss. The police were called in by late afternoon. Preliminary investigations revealed scratch marks on the windowsill in Isabella's room, as if someone had tried to hold on. Yet there were no signs of forced entry or tracks leading away from the property. It was as if Isabella had vanished into thin air. As the hours passed, suspicions began to ripple through the crowd. Whispers echoed down the halls, and watchful eyes fell on Arthur and Marina. Though there was no concrete evidence, the pieces started to align in ways that only deepened the mystery. The mansion, which had symbolized a joyous celebration, was now the scene of a disappearance shrouded in doubt. 2 days after Isabella's disappearance, the Albuquerque mansion was gripped by a heavy, almost tangible silence. The relentless search seemed to yield no results, despite every corner of the property being scrutinized with meticulous care. Then, one of the staff, climbing up to check the ventilation system, found something that took the breath from his lungs. In the attic, amid the accumulated dust and forgotten boxes, lay Isabella's body. She was dressed in her wedding gown, now stained and crumpled, with the veil askew over her face. The terror frozen in her wide-open eyes was unmistakable. A deep purple mark around her neck clearly indicated she had been strangled. The discovery sent a wave of horror through the mansion. The news spread quickly, bringing with it a flood of unanswered questions. How had no one heard or seen anything? Why the attic, a place barely remembered by the residents, had become Isabella's final resting place? And, most importantly, who could have committed such a heinous act? The police intensified their investigation, gathering evidence from the crime scene. A delicate handkerchief was found near the body, embroidered with the initials AM. Though stained with blood and dust, it became a crucial piece of evidence. Partial fingerprints were found on one of the nearby boxes, but they were insufficient to identify a suspect. Meanwhile, Arthur and Marina displayed contrasting reactions. Arthur appeared shaken but maintained a controlled demeanor, as if calculating his every move. Marina, by contrast, showed an unusual coldness, avoiding eye contact whenever the questions became too pointed. With the attic now a crime scene and the first pieces of evidence hinting at something larger, the mansion, once a symbol of wealth and happiness, had transformed into the setting for tragedy and mystery. What had begun as a disappearance was now revealed to be a carefully planned murder. The investigation soon turned its focus on Marina. Isabella's best friend, who had appeared to be a pillar of support for the grieving family, began to draw suspicious attention. Detectives uncovered troubling details about her behavior and recent actions. Marina had not only been a constant presence around Arthur but also had unrestricted access to the mansion and Isabella's private quarters. Among the documents analyzed by the police were text messages exchanged between Marina and Arthur in the months leading up to the wedding. At first glance, the messages seemed superficial, but upon closer examination, they contained ambiguous phrases that suggested a deeper relationship than anyone had suspected. Hints and shared confidences painted a picture of a bond that went beyond mere friendship. Testimonies from mansion staff added more fuel to the fire. Marina often stayed late at the house, even when Isabella wasn't home. She was frequently seen in Arthur's office, seemingly discussing matters no one else was privy to. While these meetings could easily be explained as wedding preparations, their frequency and intensity began to raise questions. Additionally, the analysis of the handkerchief found in the attic revealed an even more disturbing connection. The embroidered initials AM were confirmed to belong to Marina. She admitted that she had lent the handkerchief to Isabella weeks before her disappearance, but the explanation wasn't enough to clear her of suspicion. The handkerchief now became a pivotal piece of evidence. As the clues against Marina piled up, cracks began to show in her composed facade. While she maintained her calm in public, there was a growing tension in her gestures and expressions. The friendship that had once seemed like a safe haven for Isabella was now at the center of a web of intrigue and possible betrayal. As the investigation progressed, attention shifted to Arthur. The groom, who initially appeared as a heartbroken fiancé, now exhibited signs of unease that were hard to ignore. His controlled demeanor began to seem more like a mask than a reflection of genuine grief. A deeper dive into his background revealed Arthur wasn't the ideal man everyone thought he was. Financial records uncovered a troubling history. Arthur was drowning in substantial debt, accumulated through failed business ventures and extravagant spending. It was also discovered that just months before the wedding, he had persuaded Isabella to sign a life insurance policy naming him as the sole beneficiary. The policy's value was exorbitant, enough to clear his debts and guarantee a life of luxury. Even more alarming were the accounts from Arthur's ex-girlfriends, who came forward with stories of abusive and manipulative behavior. Although no formal charges had ever been filed against him, a pattern of controlling and dangerous tendencies began to emerge. These revelations painted a dark portrait of a man who would do anything to maintain appearances. Within the mansion, staff began to recall moments where Arthur and Marina seemed closer than expected. One employee reported overhearing a heated argument between the 2 days before Isabella's disappearance, though the content of the conversation remained a mystery. Combined with financial evidence in Arthur's behavior, a deeply unsettling picture began to take shape. The puzzle pieces started to align. Arthur wasn't just a grieving fiancé, he had clear motives for wanting Isabella out of the way. And with Marina seemingly complicit, the case now hinted at a carefully orchestrated conspiracy. The investigation, however, still needed a definitive connection to expose the truth behind that fateful night. Tensions peaked and investigators finally uncovered the most incriminating pieces of evidence. A forensic analysis of Arthur and Marina's cell phones revealed a series of deleted messages. Though erased, the texts were recovered by specialists, exposing explicit conversations about solving a problem and ensuring that nothing spirals out of control. Each message revealed a chilling, calculated plot. The messages confirmed that Arthur and Marina had been in a secret relationship for months. Their affair wasn't just a clandestine romance, it was a desperate attempt to remove Isabella from their lives. Driven by jealousy and ambition, Marina played an active role in the planning, while Arthur viewed the marriage as a way to escape his financial ruin and start a new life with Marina. Surveillance footage from cameras near the mansion revealed Marina sneaking out through the back door on the night of Isabella's disappearance. Though the footage was dark, the timestamps matched the probable time of the murder. Additional forensic evidence tied Arthur to the crime. Partial fingerprints found in the attic matched his. Faced with overwhelming evidence, the police separately interrogated Arthur and Marina. Their fragile alliance quickly unraveled. Each began contradicting the other, trying to minimize their own involvement while shifting blame. Marina claimed she had been manipulated by Arthur, while he insisted it had all been her idea. The dark secrets they had tried so hard to keep hidden were now fully exposed. What had once been a mystery was now a horrifying truth. With both culprits unmasked, the case seemed to be heading toward its resolution, though the emotions and grim details still lingered heavily over everyone involved. The confrontation between Arthur and Marina was as explosive as it was inevitable. The bond they had built on secrets and promises crumbled under the weight of the investigation. During interrogations, each began revealing disturbing details, trying to save themselves at the other's expense. Arthur admitted to planning the crime but claimed the original idea wasn't to kill Isabella, just to force her to call off the wedding. According to him, Marina suggested strangulation as the only solution when Isabella threatened to expose their affair. He described Marina as impulsive and manipulative, painting her as the mastermind behind the murder. Marina, on the other hand, portrayed Arthur as a desperate and dangerous man willing to do anything to escape his debts and protect his reputation. She detailed conversations where Arthur justified the crime as a necessary evil, calling Isabella merely an obstacle to his plans for a new life. Marina insisted that while she helped cover up the crime, she had never laid a hand on Isabella. The investigators pieced together the crime step by step, the moment of strangulation, the transport of the body to the attic, and the text messages exchanged afterward were presented with chilling clarity. The calculated coldness with which the couple had executed their plan shocked even the most seasoned detectives. The courtroom became the final stage for this drama. As evidence was presented, Arthur and Marina continued to bicker, each trying to deflect blame. The tragedy of Isabella, once confined to the mansion's halls, was now broadcast to a fascinated and horrified public. The trial of Arthur and Marina concluded amidst a wave of public outcry. With all evidence meticulously presented, the verdict was unequivocal: both were convicted of conspiracy and first-degree murder. The sentences brought some relief to Isabella's family, but the weight of the tragedy remained unbearable. The media turned the case into a spectacle, endlessly debating its dark details. Experts dissected Arthur and Marina's personalities, highlighting the manipulative traits and greed that culminated in the murder. Meanwhile, Isabella's family sought to find meaning in their loss, using her story as a warning about the dangers of misplaced trust. The Albuquerque mansion, once a symbol of luxury and celebration, became a grim reminder of betrayal and pain. Many believed the house was haunted by Isabella's spirit, an echo of her life cut so cruelly short. In a show of resilience, Isabella's parents established a foundation in her name, dedicated to helping women in vulnerable situations. Her story became a symbol of resistance against emotional and financial abuse, inspiring others to recognize the signs of toxic relationships before it's too late. The case of Isabella Albuquerque was more than just a crime that shocked society, it was a bitter lesson in greed, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of seeking happiness at others' expense. Her legacy, however, lived on, turning pain into purpose and ensuring her memory would never be forgotten.